guys, Shelly here with We Can Make That. I have it all set up different so that I can do some crafting today. Let me make sure we are good to go. I would love to introduce you guys here to Andrea from My Very Crafty Life. Okay, we are good. We are live. We are going to do some sublimation. So if you guys are like, I know nothing about sublimation, I don't know how it works, I don't know where to begin, it sounds really expensive, then you are in the right place at the right time, whether you're watching this live or catching the replay.
For sure.
Yeah. So Andrea, why don't you tell them a little bit about you and your creative business, and then we'll jump in and get creative here today.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm Andrea. I started My Very Crafty Life, I guess about 6-7 years ago, sort of accidentally. I became an accidental crafter. I don't know if that's a real thing, but that's my thing. And I ended up making just like this kind of shirt for people who asked about it, and it kind of grew from there. And then I got into sublimation. And I wanted to add something of high value because I was doing a lot of corporate clients. And you do not have to do that. That was just my experience. And then I found there was a huge missing market, and that was anybody understanding what it was, and crafters getting into it, and then having any sort of like good quality teaching, learning experience, any of that. So I ended up starting teaching it. And so I actually wrote a book. Very exciting. Wrote a book on from a crafter's perspective. So a lot of the information that's out there is from a, I want to say like a more professional perspective, where they do awards and all these other things in their big corporations. And there wasn't really perspective for crafters. So I started doing videos and just explaining and teaching to people when they asked me. And then I discovered there's literally no resource out there besides a few videos. Now, this was several years ago, but then I wrote the book. It's been hit. It's been a lot of fun to get to know people and kind of explore this craft. So we're going to go into lots of details here about it. But this book is great if you're a beginner thinking of getting started, intermediate, that kind of person. So, yeah.
I loved any question I had, because she sent me some stuff and then I played with it and then I blew up her messages and I'm like, oh, what do we do here? So it was super, like I was expecting it to be harder. I think that's where I struggled. Like I expected there to be like, you needed more of this and this expensive stuff. But seriously, for just the marker thing, I couldn't believe in how well it pressed. So let's jump in. If you guys have questions while you're watching, of course, put them on the comments. If you're watching while you're at work, put it in the comments. We won't tell your boss, but I'd love to see that. And then I'm going to jump back here and we're going to make a couple different things. So she sent me a coaster, which is like a canvasy.
Yeah,
coaster.
it's a faux linen.
And then it reminds me of like the back of the canvas stuff. And then we have this cute little gift bag. So we're going to do kind of some gift bag.
Yeah. And I have cut out, I also do laser and stuff. And I have cut out some white acrylic. And this is your design. It's part of your Christmas tree bag tag.
Oh,
well,
cute.
I just removed the
tree
and cut out some gift tags that we're going to press here too.
Oh, fun. This will be great. You can use them.
Yeah, sort of combo.
You know, mine kind of have a Christmas theme, but it's also, they work great for birthdays or, you know, Secret Santa at work or those kind of things.
Yeah, and you'd think we planned it because I totally did the Christmas one too. But
because Christmas is everywhere.
We wanted it to go together.
Right. Okay, so let me step over here.
Yeah, so what you're going to be using and that I sent you is these artist-free markers. You can get them on Amazon, which I think you have the link for. We'll drop the link for in a little bit. And you can also get them on their website and stuff like that. But I did also want to share that, and this is not a secret, it's on the box. You can get them at Michael's because they make Caesar's markers, sublimation markers. So just a little hack if you don't do Amazon or you're in, but you typically can't use coupons on them. So that's, and they have different colors.
It's free.
I found the colors to be a little different. Yeah. So you have one set. I don't know. I think I tried to grab the same colors I gave you. Yeah. But they come in a whole bunch of different sets. There's like 5 or 6 sets of different colors. So they have like a basic set that's 10 markers. And then they have 3 or 4 sets that are the different colors. So I sent you a box with sort of colors that I felt like fit your brand.
Yeah, so I have these, and then I have a really cute.
Yeah, literally your brand color. I had to totally, I totally had to get you that one. And so the beauty of this is it's like a $30 intro. You don't need a heat press. You can use a home iron, or you can use like I know you have the Cricut Press 1, and that doesn't get hot enough for sublimation typically, but with the markers, you can use it. Artistry also has a couple other things, and I'm just going to go over it really, really quick. Okay. But they just came out with this in the last couple months, but they have it's like an acrylic paint set. Now it's pretty basic colors. But if you're a painter, this could be really great. I'm not, and I'm going to still try it. I bought some brushes yesterday. The other option they have is ink pads. So if you're a stamper, these are awesome. But I'm going to tell you the trick, and Shelly got caught in this one too. You have to mirror it. So if you're going to write something, my hack for this is this the one. So this is the cute one she did, but it doesn't work because it will be backwards on her project. So 90% of things with sublimation you mirror because they're solid color to put it on. Unlike vinyl, you may not, depending on the project. Yeah. So the second one is what you want. That's what you want.
But you had a good idea. She said, just print out what you want, and then you just flip it over and trace it. And then I just drew some.
Yeah. And the beauty is Artistry, all their products are actually set up to work with printer paper. So with sublimation, when we use printers, we actually need a specialty paper to accept ink and then release the ink properly. And I've done videos on this, and Artistry does not work well with those papers. So it is literally meant to be an introduction and a different way to approach sublimation that is far less expensive. So you can get an idea. And I know you had some trouble with this because our original plan was you're going to put it in the Cricut. But if you have the marker holders for either Silhouette, Cricut, Caesar, whatever, you can put them in your cutting machine. So to draw just like the markers of the pens would.
And I think they had a different contraption, but mine didn't work. And I have the original maker.
Yeah, and so it might be, I had a Maker 3 and they worked with those, but I couldn't remember even looking at it in Michael's because I don't have one anymore. I couldn't exactly remember, so we just went with it.
So this works. So
yeah, so just one thing you do need to know, or I guess it's technically 2. When you're storing the markers, they have to be stored flat. And 20 minutes to 30 minutes before you're going to use them, you have to put them tipped down to prime the end. I use this little thing. I got it at the Container Store. I don't know. It's just like a little grass mat thing to put the marker in. And while I'm just like prepping for a video, or if I'm trying to figure out, printing my file that I want to draw or whatever, you can use a cup. Like it doesn't have to be fancy. I just like this jar. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be fancy, but you need them to look like this while they're priming. But you don't want to store them like that because you'll just waste ink and they'll leak and all that unfun stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of people don't know that, even though it's on their packaging.
Okay.
All right. So you don't use your scissors. Don't. I need you to tear it.
Oh, that's right.
So in sublimation, we do something called decaling the edge. And all that means is we tear. And I don't want you to like crease it and tear it because it's just going to create a hard edge. So you just want to go like this around your design. Now, this is specifically for fabric and working with fabric. You do not need to do this. Like when I'm doing the bag tags, you don't need to do that. I have my own tricks for those. But this is because we get pressing lines when we press that paper down into our substrate. that this just helps minimize that, because once you get those pressing lines, they're virtually impossible to get out.
Right.
So
if you've ever pressed a t-shirt and then you can see exactly where.
Yeah, and because we're at such a high temperature, but we're also using polyester, it unlike cotton where it might release it when you wash it, this just won't.
Okay.
So we have to be a little bit more careful and take a little more care, just in terms of making sure that we don't get the line ahead of time. There's been some hacks over the years of people trying to get them out with various success. And I will say really light ones you can get out pretty easily. But when they're like the ones embedded, and especially with using the Cricut or an iron, I find they don't come out.
Yeah. And I think what really surprised or felt wrong was how long you have to press it. And I've been using the Polytape vinyl, vinyl, that HTV, and that's like 5-10 seconds. So this felt like.
Yeah, so this is a whole chemical process happening. So we have to give it plenty of time for that process to happen. And this is something that I think most people have a really hard time with. And that is the time, temperature, and pressure all matter with what the substrate is, with what we're putting it on, not the ink or the paper. And so, like me doing the bag tags and you doing the bag, we might magically end up at about the same point, but because a lot of things are around that same temperature and time and everything. But like there are projects that literally sit in your heat press for like 12 minutes. Wow. Ornaments take 4 minutes. Glass ornaments take 4 minutes. So it all matters what you're pressing it onto. It doesn't matter whether you're using the markers, the paint, and all of that. It doesn't matter what ink or brand of printer you have. None of that matters in terms of how long you'll put it in your press.
So it's
or press it for.
And then it just is allowing for that chemical reaction, which I think is different from the other things we're used to pressing, which is melting the adhesive into the whatever. So
yeah, and I will say, like any company who gives you like a time or a temperature, that's you also have to take into account that what your press or heating object does changes. You know, they're going to give you a window, a place to start, and then you have to do some troubleshooting from there.
Okay.
And so it is not, I would say it's easy in terms of like the concept, but you definitely need to put some work in to make it a good product, a good outcome.
Okay. I think that's.
All right. You have yours all torn. I was just going to throw this little tip out there, and that is, this is what I did with all my artistry markers. And I just made little squares on a piece of paper with all the different colors. And then I pressed it, and it's just called a color chart. I do it with my printer when I get new inks and everything like that too. And all that does is give you the real color once it's pressed of what it's going to look like, because I get this all the time. And that is when a print or the colors, that's going to be a lot more vibrant when we press it. It tends to be very dull before we press it. And so people freak out.
They don't. Like the green looks gray on here. Like
yeah. And it will totally change when we press it. And like here, let me pull up what that color is going to look like. Make sure I have the right one here. Yeah. Okay. So like that green, when we press it, is going to end up looking like that. And it looks nothing like that when you color on it. Right. So just keep in mind that the chemical process will turn it to roughly the right color. Obviously there's color variations in our screens and many, many things, but it will be green, not gray. I promise.
Right. Okay. So before we press, hello, Teresa from New York. Teresa Grant is watching, and she says she has those markers, but she hasn't used them yet. And And she's a painter. And somebody else said they're a painter. Somebody else said hi from New Zealand. That's awesome.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, guys. For those of you who can paint, like I took 4 years in high school, and my school like hired a professional painter. I cannot paint. I'm horrible at it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these, but I really thought they were cool, and I wanted to see what they could do. But for those of you who can paint, if you can paint mirrored or just leave words out of it, I would get these and try them, because I will not do them justice. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, would they work like the paints? Would they work if you wanted to do like handprints for Father's Day on a t-shirt?
Yeah, but I have a way better way to do that. It would. They actually aren't and this is all technically because so they're rated for 9 years and older.
Okay.
And that's just because it's a chemical. So that would be a do at your own risk sort of thing. And I would be like heavily supervising them, just because you would never want that to be put in their mouth.
Okay.
Since yeah, it's a chemical. That would just, none of us should be putting it on our skin, in our mouth, any of those kind of things. I mean, it's not like the end of the world. It's not. But I've actually done that project for people, and I have them do acrylic paint and either let it dry, scan it in on a scanner, or I have them take a picture for me and then print it out, and then you can color it and do all fun things that you want to do with it, depending on what it's going on. So you could do it, but it's your own risk, because they're technically rated for kids. I think it's 9 and over.
Okay. Let's see. And then Pam says hi from Illinois, and Bale is here and said she didn't know those markers existed, and she has add to cart.
Good.
Christine.
I'm sorry. The paints are 14 and up. And that's if they have to pay to get certified for these things.
Yeah, I think that's good.
The markers specifically say not intended to be used on skin. I don't see that same thing on the colors may stain. Wash hands thoroughly after using. It is non-washable. Shake well before use. Not intended to be used on skin.
Okay.
So maybe not our best choice.
Right. Okay. That's good to know. So
especially because it apparently stains. So I'm going to like literally try it when I do, next week, I'm going to do like a color swatching mixing video, and I'm going to literally put it on my finger and see what happens. Like I'm going to wash it right off, but I'm just curious as to whether it stains skin.
Yes. That would be.
And I'll do that at my own risk, not at artist
right. And I promise I won't eat it. Right.
Yeah. I promise not to. I'm neither my puppy or I will eat it. She might try though. She really likes to try and eat things.
She is a dog. Okay. So the other thing,
yeah.
let's.
Okay. So you are using high heat tape, and you're taping it right to the bag, right?
Yep. Well, I have the coaster out first.
Coaster. Perfect. Yeah. So you're going to tape that right to the coaster, and you do need high heat tape. You cannot use regular tape. It will melt. It will make a mess. So please don't do that. I beg of you.
Stay up that long on the heat.
Then you need to protect both what you're putting it on and your press. So protective paper, that can be just printer paper. It can be, my box is mangled because I'm almost done, but non-coated parchment paper or non-coated butcher paper are kind of your options there. But no coatings on them is very key.
So I have my pressing pillow.
Yeah. So one thing about that is put a piece of paper below it too.
Okay.
Because I don't want it to get on. So typically I would highly recommend not using Teflon anywhere near your projects. You can, it's not going to kill what we're doing right now, but typically they add moisture to your project because of the nature of Teflon. And with sublimation, we do not want that moisture added. Usually we're pre-pressing to remove the moisture from the thing. We don't really need to pre-press the coaster, and it's thick enough that I'm not worried about the Teflon. And that extra piece of paper will just absorb any of that moisture.
Okay.
But typically with sublimation, we like scream from the rooftops. don't use Teflon. So, but you needed a place to actually be able to press it. So,
Right. All right. So I have it set. The hottest this will go is 360.
yep.
We talked about 55 seconds.
Yeah, I think about 55 to 60 seconds. I don't have a timer near me, so you're going to have to do that one.
Here we go.
Because I'm on my phone, and that's what I normally use as a timer. Oh, I can use our live count. So we were at 2:39 when you started.
Yeah.
20:39.
It has a timer on there, so it'll beep when it's done.
Oh, okay. Got it. So most fabric is pressed somewhere between 375 and 390 for approximately 50 to 60 seconds, just depending on your press, the temperature, all of that kind of stuff. If you're doing a shirt or something like that, we minimize the pressure. So with like vinyl, we want to like get a ton of pressure to push it in and get it sort of embedded in the fabric. We don't do that with sublimation. We want even, consistent pressure, but we don't want to smush it.
5 seconds. And I can see a little bit of steam coming out, which I assume is just moisture.
That's just moisture from the project. And it's probably coming from the Teflon mostly.
But it kind of makes you wonder.
Yep.
Like, why is my project smoking? Okay, and then you said peel it off right away?
Yep, you go ahead and peel it off right away.
Oh, it turned out cute.
Oh, I'm so excited to see it.
I have to come around.
Like, I get stupid excited to see these things, guys. Oh, that's perfect.
So
I love it.
The SVG. And then on the back, I did a little test with all of them.
Oh, sorry. That's my puppy, guys. Mocha.
Mocha wants to play. And then
Well, my neighbor kids are out in the cul-de-sac, and she would love to go play with them.
Oh, that's funny. Yep, these are a test of all the markers that she sent me to try. And then you can see that I repressed it. I mean, because it was on the back of
Yeah,
this.
you can. There are two-sided items, so you cannot repress. Say we did a project.
It didn't bleed through.
Yeah, say we did a project on the front of that, and then we wanted to add something to it. You can't do that. It will ruin the colors. It'll blow out the ink. If you have black, it'll turn it brown, that kind of thing. But that is super cute. I love it. Turned out great. And you see how now with something that small, in the future, just one idea for people, you can actually leave the paper bigger than the project, and then you will never have pressing lines. Because, yeah.
And this is a free SVG on our website that you could grab.
Yes. Yeah. And then just print it regular, flip the page over, and if you don't have a cutting machine or one that accepts the markers, and then color it yourself, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to make a coaster and I'll work on my bag?
Yeah, I'm gonna make one of the bag tags. So I'm using 1/8 inch white acrylic that I cut with my laser. And this is a glossy one, but I find after sublimating, the gloss kind of goes away. So don't count on that. But most white acrylic is sublimation, like we'll accept sublimation. This is a new brand for me, so we'll see about that. I'm also, instead of tape, because with acrylic, it does get soft during this process. So I do not recommend using tape with it, especially because typically with acrylic too, you want to do two sides. And so the impression of the tape might show. So I use something called Pro Spray 2 from Condi, but all it is a repositionable glue spray. Elmer's makes one. I mean, and you can also, some people have like quilters have had good luck using basting sprays. So I have not used those. I've used the Elmer one. It's fine. I just keep going back to this one. Oh, this is the one you're using? Okay, yeah. So I'm going to do one side at a time. And I'm going to do this cute Santa hat because I was really excited about it. So one thing about this spray is it gets everywhere. What?
Oh, I was going to say, I did put a piece of paper inside the bag.
Yeah, so you want to do that. And if you can, press it below where the cord is.
Cord is? Okay.
Yeah, just because it'll get an even nice. No, stop. You don't have any protective paper on top of it.
Oh, that's right.
And if you get that on your heat press, it is a pain to get off. Oh. So protective paper, I will say, like, so what we do is we actually call it a sublimation sandwich. So you sandwich it in the protective paper, whatever you're using it. So you put one down on the bottom. Now you have one in the middle, and so you don't need one on the bottom. And the reason she has that paper in the middle is so it doesn't leak through to the other side and kind of ghost onto that other side, so she can put something on that other side if she wants to.
Yeah.
So with the repositionable spray, while Shelly's getting that set up, you need to spray either in a box or over a trash can, but it makes a sticky mess. So I keep an old shipping box that's big enough around, and I line it with butcher paper that I can trade out, and then I just recycle it when it's too gross to keep using it, which is like every 6 months for me, because I obviously do this a lot.
Right.
But then you just want literally that much, like a tiny little spray is all you need. You do not need to and it does stink, just fair warning. And sublimation itself has an odor to it. If you are super, super sensitive to smells, this might not be the project for you. So I'm going to show you guys real quick on my transfer. You see that light gray outline? That is, that's just allowing me to line this up properly. And I did an offset of 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So it won't transfer to my project, but I know where to actually line it up.
Smart.
And you can do that with the pens too. Let me get this one going and then I'll explain how you can do that with the pens. Okay. Now, if you're not great at lining things up straight, you can use a sewing gauge or something to line it up. I'm just going to take my my sublimation sandwich and fold it in half. My press has a cool pull-out drawer, so I don't burn myself on live, because I feel like I would.
Right. I've been looking at those and I thought, what is the drawer? But it's just the shelf that pulls out.
It's just the bottom platen that pulls out on things. Yeah. So the way you want to put most projects into your heat press, or when you're pressing it, is your protective paper on the bottom, your sublimation substrate, so the item it's going on, and then your transfer face down onto the project, followed by your protective paper. There are some projects you would do differently, but they're more advanced and we're not doing them. I am gonna do this at 400 degrees for 60 seconds. This is a new acrylic for me, so we're kind of testing it out. I do need to adjust my pressure here. And I want like a medium pressure on this one. Not, too light, but not too dark.
What? So that's my cover sheet. You can see it bled onto there.
Oh, yeah, it does. And that's fine, but that's why we protect it. Otherwise, it ends up on our press. And then the kicker is every time you go to use that press, it will get on your next project. Right. And so protect it. Like I am obsessed with saying protective paper, protective paper. Oh, that's so cute.
And it didn't go through, like you can see. Whoops.
Yep.
It didn't go through the bag, but it did come through. So it wouldn't have ruined my product. It would have ruined my press, which is worse than
which is even worse than ruining the product. But yeah, that's why we put the sheet in between, because if you have black, it may have gone through. And if you have a thinner bag, it may have gone through, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And blue is one of the really hard pigments too, so that might work. And you can see on this one here, I colored that guy twice and he's a little bit darker.
Yeah. Yeah, you can layer it in. So you can layer it in. The only thing I really don't recommend is blending them, because it messes up the tip. I tried that.
Okay.
Kind of ruined my first set of these. So I'm wearing a heat protective glove because this has been in a press for a minute at 400 degrees. And I'm touching, I'm not touching the edge of a bag.
Right.
So I'm going to peel. One thing that does happen, this is not the glue, it's actually the acrylic, is some of them stick. It's not a big deal. Even if paper residue is on it, you can just wash it off.
Okay.
But this is actually, this is really cute. Yeah, I'm going to have some paper residue on it because I don't have the typical paper I would use for these. I typically like to use a very particular paper that has worked for me. But I'm going to show you how malleable this is right now, because it's been in the press. So a lot of times you're just going to want to put it on under a book or something like that. We're doing this live, so I'm not going to do that. Another thing you can do is just put it on your heat platen and put your hand over it with a glove on.
Till it cools. Okay.
Yeah, just till it cools, or just put something on top. But despite the little amount of paper left, I think it's super cute. I'm gonna see if I can touch it. Okay, we're good. I hate burning myself. I do not like touching hot things. And because I get this question a lot, I have smaller hands. These are from Sur La Table. They're smalls because they actually have small, medium, and large.
Oh.
And that's a cooking thing. So we're going to go ahead and press the second side of this, even though it's a little mangled. So I'm going to just repeat the process and keep talking to you. So what other questions do you have, Shelly, or about sublimation or about like the process or anything like that?
Do you want to talk about the printers? I don't think we did we?
No, we haven't quite gotten there. So yeah, I obviously, since this is part of my business, I have a printer. There are 3 options with your printers. So the first option, well, this is going to be backwards, so I'm not going to press the other one this way. I just realized that the bottom should be the same way, and I didn't do that. But that's okay. This is just for fun.
Teresa says, I can't wait to use her markers. So these are the ones she's talking about. They come in colors if you're just joining us.
Okay, so one tip go ahead.
What was the name of where you got the glove?
Sur La Table. SurlaTable.
There we go.
It's a cookware company in the United States. Like it's in shopping malls and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
All right, so I'm repeating the same process with my sublimation sandwich. I was happy with my pressure for the most part, but I'm going to see if making my pressure less pushes that paper into my acrylic a little less, because I'm all about doing less work. And I'm going to prep my last one, and then I'm going to show you what happened. When I had my tag like this, the way I have to press this makes it opposite my design on the back. Not the end of the world. I'm just picky, so I'm going to wait and reprint this and repress it. So it just ends up looking upside down to each other.
That makes sense.
Like you would read it and be fine, just not my thing. So yeah, you have 3 options when it comes to printers. The first is what I would call the industry standard, and that is Sawgrass. And they have long since been one of the main sublimation companies out there for printing. They make many other printers, but they make they make probably the most tried and true sublimation printer. They're also one of the most expensive, but they're the most reliable. They have a program for your printer, so you get all the colors right, because like we said, this isn't like just like inkjet. We're actually doing a chemical process here. So that ink that you're printing is actually a chemical, and it just happens to be going onto a sheet of paper, a special kind of paper. And then when you heat it, that's when that chemical process occurs. And when it cools, that's when it's stopping and it's permanent. So having your colors be right and the amount of support you get with Sawgrass is amazing. But they're expensive. Mine, if I had bought mine today, I bought mine several years ago, but if you buy the version of mine today with the accessories you need to print as big as you do, it's probably about $2,000. So yeah, it's not typically where most people start. They do have a lower level one, but it doesn't print as big. So, okay. And I always recommend just buying the bigger one, because everybody gets the first one and then they're like, oh, but I want to print bigger, because that's like shirts and stuff like that you want to be able to do, and you don't want to have to piece your design together. That doesn't work like it does with vinyl. So
yeah, they'd be seams.
Yeah, but so then there's other I'm just letting this cool for a minute so I don't have to fiddle with it. But okay, so this is actually, because I did this stupidly and didn't, so I may have done this on purpose because I knew it was going to do it. But because I did not lay this flat and put a book on it, and you guys saw how wonky it was, this is why it's important to do that. See how that ink did not transfer properly? Because it wasn't, it had to heat up and flatten before the ink touched that. And then it it didn't transfer. I mean, had I left it on there, it might have done better. But when I knew it was backwards, I was like, oh, we can teach a lesson here. I'm always big on that. So do that. But I mean, I handled this quite a bit on purpose, but just holding it, look how wonky that is. That's just from holding it while it cools. So have something heavy. And what I used to do is I used to have all my vinyl, printed vinyl in books. Like, I store them differently now, but I had them in those, scrapbooks, and they're so heavy. And I would just have like 4 of those, and I just line stuff up and put it on, because there's other things you need to be flat. But I also want to point out this side is a little bit duller now. So whichever side you want to be more vibrant and look the best, do second.
Okay.
So, and you can recycle your sublimation paper. You cannot recycle and your scrap paper, but you cannot recycle parchment paper. So please keep that in mind. That's why I like butcher paper. I can just throw it all in the recycling. So your other options with printers are Epson printers. And they, I already did this. And they have 2 options. One, I'm going to do this real quick and then keep talking.
If you got questions while she's working, just post them on there. I'm trying to watch. I'm trying to watch the questions, and I will come back and check out YouTube, because we're also streaming on YouTube right now too.
Yeah. So the Epson printers, I'm going to go really, really fast. I'm trying to do it in 60 seconds. So they have like 4 dedicated sublimation printers now, with their own ink and own program. Those are great. They're fine. Like, I don't have a problem with them. I just don't think there was a need for them within the Epson community. But everybody's always coming out with something. But then there's conversions, and this is the most popular way to use Epson printers. And it is that you buy an inkjet, and it has to be Epson, guys. The other ones, their printhead works differently, involves heat, and so it's heating up your ink, and it'll just jam up and be a mess. But basically, you take an inkjet printer, instead of putting the inkjet ink that comes with it in it, you swap it out for sublimation ink. Now, that is the most cost-effective way to get into sublimation if you're like wanting a printer. Obviously, the markers, the paint are much cheaper. And you can buy, a lot of stores sell sublimation transfers. You can even order custom ones. I do recommend that before buying a printer, because probably the entry point to get in is about $500 by the time you buy everything you need. I don't personally think that's super accessible for everyone.
Right. If it's a business expense or even that, you've got to have the
capital to do it. You've got to have a plan to use it. And I'm not like ragging on anybody who can 100% afford to do that. I think it's awesome that you can. I just like to be mindful that the majority of us could not just drop $500 on a new craft out of the blue. Right. And that's why I think the majority of the craft work could do that. But right. Because you need a heat press or a convection oven. I'm super excited about that. I cannot wait. I'm going to turn this heat press off because I don't want to burn myself and waste energy. But okay. But yeah, so tons of companies sell sublimation ink to convert Epson printers.
Yes.
I do. Yes. So I have an Epson ET 2803. I bought it, but I haven't set it up. Well, let me know. I don't know who that is, but you are welcome to PM me on my page if you need help. So the thing with the conversion printers is you have to do some testing. It's not and you may have to install it's like an ink profile, and that can get a little complicated. So if you are technically challenged, I don't necessarily recommend, or be very careful with the ink you select, because there are some inks that will use Epson's profiles to make a good product. But we didn't do it, but I'm showing you with now I have a mess going. I don't know where I put it. But like I was showing you guys the colored squares. In my book, I have a color chart you can print and press because our colors aren't necessarily the same as what you'd see on screen, right? Like we're only using a couple of colors, 4 to 6 colors, so we don't get neons. Reds can be tricky as to what red to pick. Teal is like the bane of my existence color. I don't know what it is. Getting a bright teal is like, I might as well, like I at one point, so this one has a lot of paper on it. So we're not going to, and I didn't bring water over here, but it's flat. I just wanted to show off being flat. And this is a good point. So I'm going to just go wash this off with a sponge and it'll come right off and the print will be fine. I mean, I'm not going to take our time to do that, or if we have a little time at the end, I'll run over there. But
you can come back and we can post it in the group.
Yeah, perfect.
Post in the comments.
But I just want to show you the difference in not putting something, and I didn't put anything heavy on this, so it's not perfect, but it is much closer. This one, you know, I didn't put on anything, and this one's pretty darn close to flat. So, so with the Epson conversions, you do need to do troubleshooting by yourself because there's not a big support. You also need to do a lot of testing before you go to make your product because of testing color charts, because the inks, either you have to install a color profile or they might be slightly off. And so pressing color charts just on, I buy like 2 yards at a time of polyester white fabric just to have around and like test print random crap. If I'm not sure what it's going to look like, I do that. There's less help. There's a lot more help than when I started with the Epson. So I started with an Epson, with one they don't make anymore. And I loved it. I would have stayed with it if I could have bought that exact printer again. But of course, by then they
make new ones every year. They're disposable.
Yeah. And my black, like I had done everything I could to figure out getting it to print black and it wouldn't. And so I sold it to somebody else who only wanted black. For their business, they literally run these particular things in only black. So they replaced all of them with black and didn't care. So I still recouped a little bit of that investment, but then I went with a Sawgrass because I was doing enough product to warrant the price, but needing it to be simple. I needed the support. I needed, just easy, print. I didn't have to worry if my colors were right or not, any of that. Today, with way more ink choices on the conversions, I've even debated selling this one and buying a different one to convert it, because the big thing between the two are ink prices. So
that's huge.
Yeah, replacing the ink in mine takes about. Now I get the extra loaded up, with extra ink cartridges, so you can do it for less. But I think I spent like $375 last time I had to replace all 4. That's not a small amount. That's like a whole Epson conversion printer.
Right.
But at the time it was like I still wasn't finding what I needed in an Epson, and you can get off-market Sawgrass inks, but then you don't get support and you don't get that program. So that was the part I liked about it. And I didn't want to ruin the chance of reselling that. So just things to keep in mind.
Right.
But yeah, so my book actually goes over like the equipment you might need and your choices and explains those choices to you as well. It goes over the printer options and what that may look like in terms of cost and effort to put into it. Because the lower the cost, basically the more effort you have to make.
Yes. And it looks like Gina says she's never had, I think it was Gina, said she never had any problems with hers and her colors are vibrant. So.
Which one? No, that person hasn't set up yet. With their printer? Oh, yeah, it can be. That's one of those things like, yes, some people will have no problems and they will get what they want out of it immediately. I would say that's more of a rarity than the people who end up having to do a lot of troubleshooting or figuring out. Because with the Epson conversions too, like my printer automatically runs all its own maintenance. So if you're not printing every day with an Epson, you have to go run your own maintenance and like make sure, or print every day, because the ink does kind of glop up, and that kind of thing. And so it's totally doable. It's just not totally doable if you're completely technology challenged.
Okay. And I found one of the sawgrass ones. So I linked it here just so that you guys could see. And I've also linked in this is your Facebook page.
That is my Facebook page. Yep.
Also, if you click on this clickable link here, it will give you a coupon for her book over on Etsy for 20% off, I think,
correct.
Right?
Yeah. And I did that because I know that these videos take a little while to be in the algorithms or whatever till November 22nd, I think. So you got a hot minute on that one. But yeah, and that's for the whole shop. So that's, you know, any of my designs are also on sale for you guys. But we use your designs, which I love.
Thanks.
We used your designs today. This was my favorite because I like that it's not like, I don't do the typical Christmas colors. I do jewel tones and stuff like that. And I may have to recolor this one into the jewel tones. So something important that I think people starting out don't consider, and designers, even though they mark things as sublimation, never consider. Sublimation inks are transparent. So, and we don't have white ink. So with your design, one of the important things in choosing which one, when you let me go, just choose what I wanted. See how the bottom of the hat's outlined. So if this were pink, my bottom of my Santa hat would be pink, because no ink printed there. But it's also transparent. So that means like the shirt I'm in, with the dark, it wouldn't show up at all. So white is going to be the most vibrant. I use almost all the shirts I press on are Heather Gray, just because I don't like white shirts, but it's really important. And it's really important to remember, a lot of designers have no idea what they're like sublimation's, you know, a hit in the crafting world right now. And if you're in designer groups with me, I apologize. I like keep knocking my head against the wall being like, this isn't going to work. But just, if you're going to print with sublimation, you need to know how to design what that, like pick a design. And that's a whole thing I've added to the second edition of the book, is understanding how to pick a good design.
Right.
Because that's important, because, you know, like the glass jars, the glass like beer cups and the snow globes and stuff, they're all really popular right now in sublimation. And a lot of designers are showing it with white, and labeling it sublimation. And that's literally not possible. And it's not going to be as dense. It's a see-through ink. So you're going to see through it behind it on that clear too. So I just like to throw that out there because people don't realize that. That is very transparent. And the best way I can describe it is if you've ever like watercolored on glass, like that's kind of what you're going to get. Maybe a little denser, but like that gives you an idea that you're going to be something, you know, we've probably all done at some point.
Right. And I think a lot of the I don't know, the process of people's brains are, we've done vinyl. So you can do those, like, you can do those colors and then.
And I did vinyl first. That was my business first. And so I think I came from that perspective when I teach. So I talk instead of like, kind of, I try and explain it in terms that match what we've been doing.
Yeah. Okay, we got another question.
Okay.
What ink do you recommend for the Epson?
For the oh, you're using one of the eco tanks. So I can get you a couple of names. I don't like throwing out names because I don't actually like any of them. I should start over. I'm not a big fan of sublimation with the eco tanks. And that's because inks expire and then they change color. And if you are not printing enough, then you're going to have a mess on your hands because you're going to have to extract that ink, clean it out, and put new ink in. So be careful of that.
What I'm saying is that you have to like tell your boss, sorry, I have to go home and do some more sublimation crafting, or you have to tell your husband you're gonna have to make supper tonight because I gotta go print some sublimations.
Yeah, and you can print ahead. You can print a season ahead if you want. If you know you're going to offer, particular bag tags as options and then just personalize the other side, you can have printed the front side and store the transfers in a box. I tend, because moisture is our enemy with sublimation, I tend to think like a plastic tote is better because that kind of keeps the humidity out. And I will say, pre-pressing with fabrics to get it very flat and to get the moisture out can be really important. We kind of skipped that, but where you are, humidity is not typically a problem. So I wasn't too worried about it. But like I used to live in Houston, and that's incredibly hot and incredibly humid. And I don't care what temperature I kept my house, it was still like you just could never get rid of all, as much humidity as one. But okay, so
Hippo inks. I wonder.
Hippo is a decent brand. Cosmo is a decent brand. Heat Press Nation has recently bought out a company that I had. Now, I will say my experience was bad customer service, not the inks. So Heat Press, and I think they've rebranded it to their stuff, but they bought that company out. Their inks were fabulous. The customer service of the last company was awful. So I hope they're not really involved. I mean, that sounds bad, but I do hope they're not really involved because they were like really condescending when I was like, I'm having these problems with your ink. Oh, it's not our inks. Oh, yes, it is. Like, I'm a pretty technically savvy person. And like, when I switched out their inks for another brand, like my problem was resolved. So, but I will say, if you buy on Amazon, be leery of the reviews. There is a lot of fake reviews for substrates. For the heat tape, a lot of the heat tape will transfer color to your thing, so test it out. I gave you a link for heat tape. That's the only one I buy on Amazon. I won't buy another brand, even if I have to wait. I also just order it when I am ordering stuff from companies. But
I'll share that in the comments.
Yeah, so because there's a lot of fake reviews on sublimation stuff. Right. There just is.
And I had today, I mean, we didn't press too awfully hot.
Yeah.
But at least the Cricut.
Yeah, Cricut makes a high heat tape now. And that's a pretty,
that's what I used, and it was fine. It worked out great.
That's a pretty stronghold tape, which I would say for most projects isn't particularly necessary. I will say Caesar and you got that at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, right?
Yep.
Hobby Lobby. Yeah. So that's in like with the machines and stuff. And then Caesar, the vinyl brand, they also make one. That's in Michael's. Michael's and the Cricut. Caesar and the Cricut are in Michael's. I knew I could spit that out here one day.
Right.
That's so yeah, I mean, Cosmo ink is fine. Hippo's fine. The things to look for when you're looking for ink, be leery of the reviews. Make sure that they're in stock often because you can't buy ahead for this. Order a reasonable amount. Don't order tons because it expires and it will change your colors and it will clog your machine, ruining your machine. So it's really important that you actually change it out. And then find out if they need an ink profile or not. If they don't, you're going to have a little easier time. Because they have then made those inks to be used with the Epson ink profiles, which is the little, like when it comes up and it lets you select all the things, that's using profiles to get the right colors to come out into your printer.
Good to know.
And that's true on any printer. I mean,
right.
That's why we have those little bubbles. And always select matte presentation as your paper.
Okay, I think that sounds good. Do you guys have any other questions? And then I'm just looking at all my devices to make sure.
I was like looking down too because I had YouTube pulled up.
So I think that's good. I haven't seen any more comments that I might have missed a couple. Somebody said, put a dehumidifier. That's a good.
Yeah, if it's really humid, you can run a dehumidifier. But pre-pressing always worked for me. But yeah, if you're gonna do a lot of paper printing and you're in a humid environment, like pre-printing, put like parchment or something, or like the glassine paper between them, so that if it's warm or if it's humid, they won't stick together, ruining your print. Because that would suck.
Yeah.
Because that would defeat the entire point of pre-printing. Something else I recommend in my book is to print out black square sheets. It's a good way with all your colors to even do a purge page. But that's how we do a lot of troubleshooting, is I print out and always have 1-inch black squares sitting around. And that's just a good like maintenance thing to do once in a while. So you can do that as like your print for the day. But yeah, if you're going to do an Epson, you need to be printing regularly or turn it off. With my printer, you're never supposed to turn it off. Although I fully admit I will if I'm not going to use it for a while. If I like legitimately know I'm not using it, then it gets turned off. Because I don't like wasting ink.
Right. And I think that's good. Like with the other ones that are a lower price, if you just learn those tips like you just suggested, then it
and things like, I mean, I'm not going to explain how to fix these things, but like things you're going to run into are the print heads are going to clog more often. And so you're going to have to troubleshoot that with like nozzle checks, print head cleanings, that sort of thing. And you can damage your print head much faster in the Epson. You're going to have to clean your rollers more often. And then the eco tanks, my big concern with everybody is their inks expire long before they print through that many pages.
Okay. So
no, it doesn't help with the ink not drying up.
But it helps in them clogging.
I find it helped with clogging. I had an Epson Artisan 1430. Like I said, they don't make it anymore. But I just think it wastes ink. But also, depending on which Epson, it kind of closes off those. It kind of moves the print head over to the side where it's a little more protected and not just like sitting where the air will get it and clog it. That's really scientific of me, but I just found with the Epson, if I wasn't using it, and I'm talking if you're not using it for like 2 or 3 weeks here. I'm not talking if you're not using it every day, because every time we start any printer, it goes through that booting up, and that wastes ink because they all have waste inks.
That's good.
And so, yeah, don't turn it off if you're printing often. If you're not printing, however, I find turning it off saved me more issues than leaving it on.
Okay.
And with the sawgrass in particular, it does your maintenance, so it's eating up ink to do that maintenance. That's what you don't want it to do when you're going to be gone for a month or something like that, or not printing, so.
All right. Well, if you guys have any other questions and you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and drop them in here, because then we'll get notifications so we can come back and tag her. And
I was just say, tag me. I'm in the group, I believe. So
yes,
so you can tag me. And then you directly.
Yeah, your page is in here, so you guys can go follow her at.
Yeah, you dropped it earlier.
I don't have my computer glasses on, so I can't see.
I love it. Yeah. So I do. I'm a little haphazard right now because, like you guys, I'm doing Christmas season stuff already. But I do videos teaching on my page, and I take requests for videos. So if you're struggling with something and you either can't find a video or you want an updated one, PM me, drop a comment in my group, in this group, whatever you want to do. I'm pretty open to helping. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for my fun marker set.
Yes.
I'm
can't wait to see what you do with them.
Cute what else? So this is great because it matches my cup. So I'm gonna and then I'll think of you every day.
I love it. And I love that. I love those particular coasters just because they're soft and they absorb a bunch of water. I literally poured water on them at some point.
Well, the back is kind of ugly, but they're very, I don't know. I was like, this is fun. And at first,
so they're faux linen, because you need polyester or polyacrylic to press onto. It doesn't work on cotton. I guess we probably should have said that at the beginning, but it doesn't work on cotton, or you need a man-made substrate basically, or a coated one. And so that's a faux linen. That's from Conde, Conde. And that is probably the best faux linen I've come across. So a lot of companies have it now. They now have faux canvas, faux linen, and faux burlap.
That's good. Yeah, it's very nice. I thought it was like with those patches people are putting on their
The
sewing.
hats. They do make those too, but
Really cool.
with that, but I always joke, I'm like, I don't know why you would, like, if you can sew at all, just buy the fabric. It's way cheaper to buy the fabric than sew it to the hat, and cut your own out. But if you can't sew, then
right.
But-
And if you have 500 of them, you might not want to do that.
so
This
yeah.
was awesome.
Well, thanks for having me. It was fun.
And we'll have to get together and craft again soon. So if
I
you
would
guys
love it.
have any other questions, like we said, go follow Andrea over at My Very Crafty Life, and she will help you get your sublimation set up.
Yeah, and feel free to ask any questions. Always happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye.